AEW president and founder Tony Khan could be stepping foot in a wrestling ring as a competitor. He was recently asked about a potential in-ring debut. Could we see Tony inside of a wrestling ring having a match? I'm going to tell you why that could be the case. We're also going to talk about MVP, one of AEW's latest signings, who had some very interesting comments about his time with WWE, why that ended, and his thoughts on WWE management today. All that and much more coming up right here in this video, so be sure to smash that thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. All right, let's talk about Tony Khan, the founder of All Elite Wrestling, created a bit of a firestorm earlier this year when he involved himself directly in an in-ring storyline, not an in-ring match, but an in-ring storyline with the Elite that saw him get beat down by Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, Kazuchika Okada, and Jack Perry. We now have some thoughts from Khan himself, who was asked about the potential of him competing in a wrestling ring as a competitor. Here's what he said about that on Levick and Gaz, saying, quote, "I still don't think that's in the cards, but a lot of the best wrestlers in the world right now are in AEW. I think the best wrestling and where the best wrestle is our tagline, and I want to keep it that way and keep myself out of the ring." Now, it is worth noting, Tony has denied this, but saying that he thinks that, it won't happen as of right now, it does leave a little bit of a crack open for this to happen. And look, I know that many of you out there are going to think this is a very cynical take or whatever, and think that, Tony would never do this. Yet a couple of years ago, when AEW first started in 2019, one of the big questions was, at the time, how involved would Tony Khan be in the week-to-week storyline? How involved would he be as a potential character? And while we haven't seen him too involved outside of this past year in 2024, he was really a lot of people would say more involved than he probably should have been. But outside of that, Tony hasn't really been on AEW TV. One of the first appearances I believe he made on AEW TV was backstage when Kenny Omega won the AEW World Championship at Winter is Coming 2020. That was like the first time we really saw him on TV in that nature. And he was kind of just yelling at Kenny Omega as Omega does like his little heist and goes off the TNA. And then the first time we saw him in the ring was during that promo in 2022 in the lead up to AEW Revolution, when he announced that he had purchased Ring of Honor. And that was a major moment. Tony was doing it less so from the perspective of someone who wanted to give himself the glory in that way and wanted him to be the draw, and more so from like, this is a major announcement that we need to hear about. Yet, we had the moment earlier this year where Tony was involved directly in a storyline. Tony has been involved in many announcements before. He has been a part of like news updates and things like that, but never has Tony really been involved in a storyline than he was earlier this year. So we went from Tony saying he would never step foot in the ring, he would never be on TV, would never be a TV character, to he's a full-fledged TV character, whether he likes it or not. And the most important reason, combined with this that I just said, as to why I think Tony will end up in the ring one day, is because if you look at it right now, Tony Khan is one of the biggest draws in AEW. I know that sounds like a wild statement, but hear me out. When you think about AEW, there are a lot of names that may come to mind, but don't tell me that Tony isn't one of them. And when we think about UFC, one of the first names that comes to mind, obviously, is Dana White, the promoter, the manager, the president, the guy who runs the show. He's one of the first people you think about. When you think about WWE, Triple H is one of the first names you think about. In the same way as those two, Tony Khan is the guy that you think about when you think about AEW. And even just looking anecdotally, guys, look at like YouTube videos. If they got Tony Khan on the thumbnail, they tend to do a lot better because at the end of the day, people associate him with the brand. That is why Tony goes out of his way to go and do interviews. That is why like all this stuff happens. So I think when you have that, I think there's the potential that for the right story, you could see this. And I don't think that it would be the hokey Vince shit that we got in WWE. Because whenever Vince would wrestle, the entire point was, he's like obviously not a wrestler, but he's just like a big jack guy who gets his ass kicked. I think the only way I could see this happening is if it is like Tony coming out, being challenged or somehow compelled to do this match. I don't know how you would do it. Maybe it would be a thing with like Shane or something where he says, I have a controlling share and we're going to duke it out. And it's like a bit of a, not a joke, but it's like such an unserious thing because Tony knows like he's not a competitor. But he comes out and he's like, what are we doing? Like, I'm not doing this. And then he just gets beat down. And then maybe someone else makes a save. That's the only way I could see this like transpiring. I don't foresee Tony Khan putting on pads or anything. I don't think anyone wants to do that. I don't think Tony Khan wants to do that. But I do think in a setting like that where it's presented as less so as like Tony being like, I'm not going to do this. This seems stupid. And then just getting beat down. That's the only way I could ever see him doing that. Because at the end of the day, he is not a competitor. He is not he's not the biggest guy as far as like, muscles and all that goes. So again, for the right story, I could see it, but we'll see, man. Like he left the door open a little bit. But I'm telling you, crazier things have happened in wrestling. The fact that Tony Khan is as involved on TV as he is now is something that no one foresaw just a couple of years ago. So that's where we stand, guys. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think of that. And also, let me know what you guys think of this awesome deal that I'm about to give you, courtesy of our friends over at SeatGeek. If you, yes, you watching this, listening to this at home, are looking for $20 off, you're looking to spend a lot less money on your next ticket purchase, boy, do I have a deal for you. From the #1 sports ticketing app in the country today, SeatGeek. Today, you guys can save $20 off your next purchase by using the promo code REALTAKE. That is $20 off your first purchase, by using the promo code REALTAKE. SeatGeek is, again, the best sports ticketing app out there. It rates your tickets on a 1 to 10 scale, so you know exactly the type of deal that you are getting. Fantastic. I use it myself. You guys today can save yourself some money. Save yourself $20 today by using the promo code REALTAKE when you sign up for SeatGeek using the link in the description. It's all you got to do. You click the link in the description of this video. You sign up. Use the promo code REALTAKE. That is REALTAKE. REALTAKE. And boom, you got yourself $20 extra to spend at parking, to spend at concessions, to save and put in your pocket if that's what you want to do. If you're going to a concert, if you're going to a wrestling show, if you're going to a Ravens game like I am pretty soon, promo code REALTAKE when you download and sign up with SeatGeek. Save yourself $20 off your first purchase, guys. Hoo-wee woo. What a time that was. Fun ad read. I got myself through that one. Let's move on and talk about our final story of the day, though. Let's talk about MVP Montel Vontavious Porter recently talked about his departure from WWE and also shed some light about his thoughts on WWE management today. This comes as MVP, Bobby Lashley, and Shelton Benjamin all have arrived in All Elite Wrestling as members of the Hurt Syndicate. Here is what MVP had to say with Drop the Heat, quote, I didn't want to re-sign. I let it be known that I wasn't going to re-sign because of the new management in place. Anytime I don't care where you work, when new management comes in, it's good for some people and not good for other people. New people come in, old people go. So I just felt that it was definitely time to go because the new management just wasn't for me, and I ain't for him. The I ain't for him, clearly a shot, you could say, at Triple H. This was very interesting. There's a lot of discourse online about Triple H's booking, particularly when it comes to people of color, particularly when it comes to black men. And I know that there are other people who have done extensive coverage of this and who are probably in a better position to talk about it than I am, but it is very difficult to separate that criticism that Triple H had, which I believe is legitimate, and the at least feeling of MVP towards Triple H, something that Lashley has stated, and again, they have not said outright that is the case, but when you are seeing the outrage and you're seeing the naturally people being upset about the lack of opportunity there, I think that kind of speaks for itself, because the last singles black talent, single black male talent to win a match on a WWE PLE was who? Snoop Dogg. That should not be the case. Love Snoop, all that stuff, but that was 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And we're still here waiting for that to happen. That should not be happening. And I think, just going back to MVP, Bobby, and their situation, particularly aside from that whole discussion, I also think that it was something that we had heard rumblings about. MVP and Bobby Lashley had made it known that they were not going to stay with AEW or with WWE, that led them to AEW. And I agree in a lot of ways with what MVP says. Whenever you have new management come in, whenever you have new leadership come in, sometimes they want to freshen things up. Sometimes they want to take a new approach. And that is very good for the business. That is very good for a lot of people. But then some people who may have been prioritized before tend to be either less prioritized or get taken out of the equation completely. In the case of Lashley and MVP, they were almost completely taken out of the equation when it comes to WWE under Triple H. And, there's an argument to be made that, it's something that happens, and that is why they're in AEW right now. And that is why it is a good thing that AEW exists. That is why it's a good thing that there's another place for these awesome talent to highlight where they are, and vice versa. People going back and forth is a good thing for wrestling, because if you're not getting the opportunity one place, all right, we know that Lashley, former world champion, multiple-time world champion, we know Shelton Benjamin, arguably one of the biggest and most talented athletes in all of professional wrestling history, MVP, high-class manager. They got all the talent in the world. They can go over in AEW and do their thing. But it is interesting to me in the way that MVP kind of approached this. Because this really felt like a big shot at Triple H. And given some of the criticisms we've heard about Triple H, particularly when it comes to conversations of race, when you hear this from, a person of color, it's a big deal. It is a big deal, at least maybe to me. Maybe, you can call me a snowflake, you can call me whatever the hell you want in the comment section. But the fact of the matter is, this dude, Triple H, the dude who WWE pays probably millions of dollars to, tens of millions of dollars to, who's a shareholder, their chief content officer. This is someone who is supposed to be the public face of WWE. And take the modesty, take the ethical, all the moral stuff out of it, because I know some of y'all don't care about that. How dumb is Triple H to go out there on a press conference, getting asked a legitimate question about talent of color, and representation, and Triple H, his answer to it is, I don't see color. That is dumb. It's stupid. You tell me you as a white dude don't see color? Come on, man. We all know what that means. And if you don't, I ain't gonna help you with this, but it's crazy. It's wild, because we've been having these discussions for a while about not just black talent, but people of color in general in wrestling, and it's man, it is unfortunate it doesn't begin. And Tony Khan has had his fair share of run-ins with this. Let's not absolve Tony Khan of this, but there's a reason why MVP is not in WWE anymore, and I would wager to think that sentiment that Triple H had displayed in that particular press conference, you know, is or that principle, whatever, is part of that reason. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Let me know in the comments section though what you guys think about MVP calling out Triple H, catching strays. Well, not really strays. So I think that was intentionally meant for him. Well, what do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments section. Also, let me know what you guys thought about Tony Khan's comments about competing in the ring. I want to hear from y'all in the comments below. Be sure to also leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Until next time, be happy, be healthy, and as always, keep it real.